What up, what up, what up, Lakers Nation? Welcome back to Bleacher Report for your Thursday, May 1st edition of Lakers Daily. Cancun on three, Cancun on three, Cancun on three. Yes, yes, yes. It's over. I'm sure we all know by now. The Los Angeles Lakers season has officially come to an end after last night's loss. All that Lakers in 5. Well, it looks like it was Wolves in 5, right? Tough series, tough loss. I'm not even going to spend that much time talking about the game because, in my opinion, Minnesota just dominated the series. Minnesota, they were the more athletic team. They were the more physical team. And they were just the better team, and they advanced. So congratulations to Minnesota. We're not even going to harp on what the Lakers did wrong. We're going to give Minnesota their credit because they balled out. They went out there night in and night out. They didn't go through. They weren't going through the motions, and they went out there and they got this series. When you beat a team in 5 games, I don't care how close. Yeah, game 3, Luka gets sick. He's sick. If he's not sick, how does that change? How does that, is the ending different there? In game 4, there were some tough calls that went against the Lakers, in particular that McDaniels trip on Luka that they did not call at the time. 33 seconds left. Lakers down by 1. It was a blatant trip. It should have been called a foul. Luka goes. I'm pretty sure he makes both of those free throws, and he gives the Lakers a 1-point lead, as opposed to that call not being called, Luka falling down, and the Lakers having to burn their final timeout. And then they came out and turned the ball over, and LeBron fouled Ant, and their lead kind of expanded. So, yeah, there were some things here or there, but the series was over in 5 games. So Minnesota did what they did what they did. They were just the better team. I think that they had for the majority of the series, they had for sure 2 of the best 3 players on the court, or 3 of the best 4 players. Their role players definitely outplayed the Lakers role players. Julius and man, shout out to Julius. Julius had a heck of a series. I think he kind of put to shame or put to bed that notion of, he shrinks in the playoffs, all that. New environment, new team, new role, and the man absolutely balled out. He balled out, man. But of course, I think Ant was the best player in this series every night. I think he was the best player. Yeah, Luka had some high scoring nights, but I think overall Ant he was the guy in this series, right? And you got to give him credit. And I believe that his game matured a lot. Last year, the thing with Ant was, when you blitz him and you send that extra help his way, he couldn't make the pass, right? Well, you definitely seen him do that in this series. He was making the correct passes if you blitzed him, and you saw a lot of that last night. But even go back to game 1, when Ant had 9 assists and only 1 turnover, right? And that 1 turnover in game 1, it came within the first couple of minutes. So he pretty much played the entire game, 45 plus minutes without a turnover and 9 assists. So out the gate, you saw the maturity or the maturation in his game. So you got to credit him for that. And then, of course, last night, the Lakers' game plan shifted a bit, and they really blitzed and heavy, right? And he made the passes. He made the correct passes. And it was to that weak side, and when you bring out that extra defender and you blitz them, right, and you try to trap them, it left the Lakers front line just wide open, and you saw Rudy just lob after lob, just dunk after dunk, and you got to credit Ant to that, man, for making the correct plays. So again, I just think he was the best guy on the court, and I think he kind of elevated his stock into top 5 status. I really do. Luka, on the other hand, great heroic performances by Luka. But I mean, to be honest, seeing Luka's defense in this series, and seeing his conditioning in this series, I think you got to slot Ant slightly above Luka when it comes to, you know, the top 6, top 7, whatever you want to call it. I think Ant, just based off this series, kind of surpassed them now. Of course, in the totality of things, we'll see how Luka rebounds, right? Going to this, Luka has a lot of work to do. We're going to talk about it. But again, congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I can see Minnesota getting out of the next round too, especially if they play Golden State. I think it's going to be more of the same. They could out physical Golden State, right? They're bigger than Golden State. They're more physical than Golden State. So I could see them getting out of that series as well, which means that catapults them back into the Western Conference Finals. They were a Western Conference Finals team last year. So yeah, there's that now. Of course, with Golden State, you get a lot more organized offense. I think you get smarter offense, just because they've been doing it for so long. That's one of the major issues that I have with the Lakers this year, or this playoffs, this series. The organized offense, it just was not there. And JJ kind of, you know, when he was asked about that in some of the press conferences, he kind of pushed back and said, in a sense, them running the pick and rolls and stuff, you know, he considered that organized offense. I mean, pick and roll is an action. You know, it's probably the simplest action, one of the more simple actions that you can run. But, you know, I think the Lakers consider that to be some organized offense, that the pick and rolls or the switch hunting, all that stuff. So we would have loved to see more. Really fast, that comment, get Giannis to go with Luka. Boy, we got Luka. Now you want Giannis too? I just don't see that happening. The Lakers, I just don't think they have the assets to go out and get a Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think the only way that that's even remotely possible is if Giannis forces his way to LA. If he says, trade me to LA and LA only, that's the one team on my list, which I don't think that's what he'll do. But yeah, anything short of that, I don't see the Lakers even being in the mix. Now, they will call about, yeah, all 29 teams are going to call about Giannis, Lakers included, but we just don't have what it takes to get them. The draft compensation, and then it's going to be real difficult for the Lakers to trade for another superstar with these GMs, because everyone saw that it was highway robbery how we stole Luka, right? So no GM is going to hand us Giannis on top of that, or another superstar in that regard. But yeah, man, the Lakers offense, particularly in the fourth quarter, it was just bad. They averaged 17 points over this series in the fourth quarter, only 17 points. And that's a LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves team. That's terrible, absolutely terrible. You're not going to win much only averaging 17 points in the fourth quarter, especially against, on the other side, your opponent, Ant, rose up to the challenge, right? Ant licked the Lakers right in the face, and down by 10 points in game 4, looked them right in the face, and then Buds came out here back to back, amazing, crazy jumpers to trim that lead. So Ant wasn't shy at all. Nas Reed, there was a point where he had only missed one shot in the fourth quarter, going into game 5, right? Only one shot. He was like a perfect 6 for 6 from 3 at a point, right? Or maybe in game 4. So those guys stepped up. They stepped up in the fourth. Meanwhile, the Lakers struggled. Their offense was on the struggle bus. And we kind of saw a lot of that. We just kept waiting for them to break through. We spoke about it, you know, since the acquisition of Luka, right? Getting Luka, the trade. We spoke about how the offense was going to be what the Lakers would ride, you know, to possibly a finals appearance or to possibly a finals win. And we never saw it. It just never broke through. I mean, you saw little spurts of it. I think they had like a couple of quarters in this entire series, and what 20 quarters played. I think they had a couple of them where they went over 30 points. So it was just, it just never materialized, right? And a lot of that comes with, you know, just lack of reps, right? They just didn't get the reps. They didn't have the reps. This team just wasn't together for very long, you know? So, but at the same time, you got to figure it out. And when you got the IQ of LeBron, you got the IQ of Luka, I just thought they would have figured it out. Why did we never really see the LeBron and Luka two-man game? They never really went to that. It was just a lot in this series. Austin Reeves, I think by far his worst series, worst playoff series. He was kind of up and down last year in Denver. He had a decent series, I guess, but this one was just bad. It was just bad. I think last night was probably his worst game of the entire series, and it's crazy because Game 4 he came out with 0 points, in the first half, 0 points, and he had more fouls, 3 fouls than he did points in Game 4 in that first half. But he kind of bounced back and rebounded in the second half, scoring 17 points. But last night, it was just bad. It was bad, and I believe he has to get into the gym, and which is understandable. There's another layer to his game that he has to add, and I think that's being able to beat physical teams, right? Physical play, physical defender play, right? He has to add that to that bag of his, right? The bag just was not there in this series. Minnesota, they're just a solid defensive team. They have really good individual defenders. Some Lakers just don't have, right? But good individual defenders. And Austin he wasn't able to blow by those guys like we had kind of become accustomed to seeing during the Lakers stretch to close the season. He just wasn't getting there. He wasn't blowing past guys. He wasn't getting to the free throw line. It just wasn't there then. So I think he has to get in the gym this summer and really work on that, being able to elevate his game against those physical defenders, the physicality of it, being able to match that. And then the other thing is the knocking down threes, the catch and shoot threes. He has to do better, get in there and work on that. Something that shouldn't be difficult for him to work on, right? That's easy to work on. So he has to work on I believe he has to work on those two things there. Then of course the chemistry between him and Luka, got to continue to build that, expand that even more. Him, Luka, and LeBron. All the hero ball, just standing around watching. You take a turn. No, it's my turn. Now it's your turn. We got to figure all that out. Because the Lakers are just too heavy on that. They were too ISO heavy, too much hero ball. It was just far too much of that. And when you play against a good defensive team like Minnesota, this is the result that you're going to get. But shout out to the Lakers. They 50 win team, the third seed. So a part of me questions, did the Lakers peak too soon? Did the Lakers peak too soon? We saw the great play that their great play from mid-January to all the way to the end of the season, but in particular before, all the way up to that point where LeBron and Jackson Hayes and those guys got hurt. They were playing some of the best basketball in the entire league, in the entire association. But I just think they peaked too soon there, and JJ may have tipped his hand a little too soon there, right? Because everyone saw what this team was, and they saw them at their best, at their peak, and they kind of made adjustments to that, particularly in this series, in this playoffs, right? But again, the third seed after being back to back play-in team, 7 seeds, they moved up to the third seed, and they did all this with the rookie head coach in JJ. So you got to give JJ's credit. Now, in this series, I don't think that he did well. In fact, if I had to give him a grade in this series, I'd give him a D. Yeah, D. I think he was that bad coaching during this series, but again, a rookie head coach, 50 wins, the 3 seed, so you can't take that away from him. But again, maybe he tipped his hand just a little too soon. This team peaked just a little too soon because in this playoff, he just didn't adjust correctly, right? And then, of course, we know Game 4, all the heat that he took. I was on the other side of this. He took all the heat for playing everyone that whole half, all those minutes, which is absurd. Something that just you don't see in the NBA. But at the same time, I understood where he was coming from. Who else am I going to play? He just didn't trust those guys. Jackson Hayes, he lost full trust in Jackson Hayes, as he should have. And really, Vando, we know his struggles on the offensive end. We know that he's a liability on the offensive end. So offensively, he's going to bring you the defense, the energy, the effort, all that stuff. But offensively, it's kind of like you're playing 4-on-5. We kind of knew that with him, so he didn't trust him in that moment. And again, it's a rookie coach. He's staring elimination down, right? Staring, going down 3-1. That's right in his face in real time in 4K. I think maybe he just panicked a little bit, and he just didn't know what to do. He didn't know what he was doing in that moment. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. But again, 50 wins, the third seed, so you got to give him some credit there, and I think he can only go up from here, right? He got that first series out of the way. He got humbled tremendously, because the Lakers were the favorites, and they got their what's kicked. So hopefully he got his humbling there, his slice of humble pie, and hopefully he can grow and build on that. In his exit interviews, he took accountability for things, and he said he wants to get better, wants to be better, and that starts like right now. So we'll see. But for the second year in a row, man, that just dawned on me. For the second year straight, Lakers get that they get sent home in 5. That a pure gentleman's sweep, right? In the first round, only 5 playoff games, and it's tough because the Lakers could have won this series. They really could have. If they would have executed better, and particularly down the stretch. And that's the thing. Minnesota just outplayed the Lakers down the stretch. And we talked about Ant's growth and his maturity, the maturation of his game. How about Minnesota as a team? They matured because last year, they kind of fell apart, right? And this year, the reason why they're a 6th seed is because they just couldn't close. In clutch games, they couldn't close. They couldn't finish, right? And the Lakers were excellent at closing and finishing in clutch games. And in this series, it was the total opposite. The Lakers absolutely struggled. They were horrendous, like terrible. Whereas Minnesota, they closed every game. So it's tough to see, man. Rudy cooked us last game. He should have put Hayes in for a couple minutes. Right. That's another blunder by JJ. Rudy out there looking like Shaq. I mean, he had playoff career highs in points and rebounds. I think he finished the game with 27 points and 24 rebounds. That's what Rudy Gobert did, right? I get it. You switched the starting lineup. You put Jackson on the bench, and you went with that laser lineup, as he likes to call it, that small ball death lineup, if you will, that 5-out lineup. But again, like you just said, at some point, you just got to throw Jackson out there for a little bit, man. Even if you run him with the second units when Rudy isn't out there, you do that. But yeah, I just think you needed to throw him out there for a few minutes against Rudy. If anything, just to throw him off a little bit. I mean, go out there and pick up your 6 fouls. If anything. And of course, we know that the Lakers have to address that position. That's their number one focus, their primary focus. In this offseason is to get a big, and that's the other thing. Jack's really fast. That we saw what he did when AD went down, even before the Luka trade, when AD went down, and Jack started. He got the start at center. He played very well, right? And then obviously with Luka, he comes in. He's that lob threat, that vertical lob threat for Luka. He's playing tremendous defense. He's the best rated center, defensive center, the best defensive rating from that position for a long stretch of time. But it was just fool's gold, man. And we all went along for the ride, myself included, thinking that this team could legitimately win a title without a center, without a starting center. It just wasn't going to happen. And yeah, man, it's tough, man. It's tough. playing Maxi Kleber, right. It's crazy playing Maxi over Jackson Hayes, but just playing Maxi Kleber, period. When I saw him check in the first quarter, here you are, it's an elimination game, and he's subbing in the first quarter like a guy who hasn't played in 3 months. Like the dude ain't played in 3 months. That's who you're going to. Never played the game in a Lakers uniform. That's who you're going to. No, I just don't get it. Now I get it. You could say, well, Minnesota, they don't have they didn't have an opportunity to game plan for that, but no, I'm not doing it. And then again, the disrespect for playing him over Jackson Hayes is insane. And Jackson's someone I would like to keep as a backup center, right? What he really is. That's his natural thing. He's a backup center. I don't think he's a starting center on any team in this league, especially a contender. That's just not who he is. But as a backup, I wouldn't mind him staying. But like you just said, it was just blatantly disrespectful. Will he want to stay or will he want to go elsewhere? It's just that was just another thing I just didn't get last night, or didn't understand last night. But yeah, man, it's tough, man. It's tough all the way around. And then when Luka and LeBron, they came out, they combined for 1 bucket in the first quarter. Elimination game, they combined for 1 bucket. They were 1 of 8. First and foremost, that's just not enough shots. Only 8 shots, but you only made 1 bucket. They needed to come out from the jump with a sense of urgency and even more drastic, a sense of desperation, because they were desperate. And I just don't think you ever saw that you just didn't see that from the Lakers, right? And he didn't go off. Game 4, he went off the 43 points, but he didn't go off last night. I think he was like 5 of 19 for shooting, so he had an off night. He passed the ball well. Again, with the blitz and the traps that came, the extra tension that came his way, he made the correct basketball play and got rid of it. And Rudy was the beneficiary of that, a lot of that. But yeah, it just was never there. The urgency and I was there, and it just in the arena, it just wasn't. It just never was there, man. It sucked. It really did. It really sucked, man. Can we get Giannis without giving up too much? Again, I don't see us getting Giannis because we just don't have the draft capital, right? That's what Milwaukee's going to want. Now, obviously, they will want to try to get another superstar in return, like Luka and AD, like that deal. If not, though, they're going to want young prospects and a lot of draft picks, right? Draft capital. And the Lakers just don't have that. We would, and in regards to not giving it, you're going to have to give everything you got, everything you got, not named Doncic and James. Yeah, all that. You're going to have to give it all up. But I still don't think it's enough. Again, all 29 teams are going to call about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Everyone, right? Us included. Everyone's going to call. I just don't think we have. The only way that I could see Giannis, it even being a remote possibility, is if Giannis forces his hand and say, trade me to LA. That's where I want to be. Then I think if he did something like that, I think Milwaukee would probably oblige to that and give him his wish, considering he brought that city a championship and everything he's meant there. But I don't see it happening. If I'd say probably like a less than 15%, less than 10%. I'm not gonna say 0% because I didn't see Luka coming, not by any stretch of the imagination, but but I don't think Giannis is coming. And we'll have plenty of time to talk all about that. It's gonna be a long summer, as it always is for this Lakers team, right? The Lakers got a lot of work to do. They got a lot of flaws. In fact, really fast, I think you mentioned that we need to get Max Christie back. I wish, man. Max Christie next to Luka would be perfect. Would be absolutely perfect, man. You know what? I'm not on the Trey Reeves camp. I'm not in that camp. I just think he just needs to take his game to another level. But I don't like that backcourt pairing of Luka and AR. You kind of saw it with D'Lo and AR. It didn't work. Now it works a lot better with this variation of it because Luka is just, that much better than D'Lo, right? So he brings you so much more offensively, but defensively, that pairing is still really bad. I just wonder, if there was a way to send Austin to Dallas and you get a Max Christie back, that might be something I entertain. That might be something if you could send Austin to Dallas and give me Max Christie and one of those bigs, because they have a surplus of bigs, then I would do that. I would do that. Again, I'm not looking at the salaries. I'll have to do it another day. But yeah, Austin and Dalton or something like that to Dallas, and give me Gafford and Max Christie. Yeah, that might be something I would have to entertain, because Max Christie would fit so perfectly next to Luka, man. That would be, yes, I like that. He's athletic, and that's the thing. It's not just how bad they are defensively. They're not athletic defensively, you know, and they need that. When you look at everyone, right? LeBron is 40 years old. He's going to be 41, 22 years in the league. So he can only give you so much. And shout out to LeBron. LeBron played heck of, you know, he really balled out defensively in this series. So much so I think that he ran out of gas in both games 4 and 5. He totally ran out of gas because offensively, on the offensive end, because he exerted so much energy and played so well on the defensive end. Right now, last night, I think that was the worst defensive game that he played all series. But I just think he was gassed, man. 40 years old. It is what it is. Coming off of playing almost 50 minutes 2 nights prior, it is what it is. But yeah. Center. Let me share some of the available centers. Now, these are potential free agent centers, right? You got Brook Lopez there. I think he finds a new home next year. I don't know if I would want him. He's not that vertical lob threat. And Luka, that's something that you have to give Luka. You have to give Luka that vertical lob threat. And the Lakers tried to. When they acquired him, they tried to get Mark Williams. We know how that happened. And Mark Williams, he was having himself a time last night, trolling the Lakers. So he's still in his fields, right? That might be someone you circle back to. Now, I know there was that concern about the medicals and all that, but I don't know. I just think the Lakers got cold feet. I think it was more so that. But again, there may be some truth to it about that. But Mark Williams is someone that you could potentially circle back to. And I just wonder if you had a Mark Williams in this series, I think the outcome of this series might be different. You know, we will be still in this thing and getting ready to play tomorrow. They will be in Minnesota and getting ready to play tomorrow. So yeah, that might be something, a name to keep in your back pocket, right? But Brook Lopez, these are our potential center free agents. Brook Lopez, he's an unrestricted free agent. Clint Capella, he's an unrestricted free agent. Now Clint, I think that's someone that the Lakers need to go after. He's that vertical lob threat. He can rebound. He can protect the paint, be that last line of defense. Now, he's older. He's in his early 30s, so he's not the Clint that he used to be, you know, back in his, his early Atlanta days. And I forgot where he was, but he's not that Clint Capella. But, I still think that he would be a good fit. Especially over Jackson Hayes. I think that's a definite upgrade, and I think he might be cheap. Someone that you can get on the low, because the Lakers aren't going to have a lot of money, a ton of money, which we'll talk about before we get out of here. But then you got Naz Reid. Naz Reid has a player option. Boy, wouldn't I love to have some Naz Reid? We just seen what he did to the Lakers. Again, he's a different type. He's not that vertical lob threat. You know, he's more of that stretch, if you will, stretch 5, stretch 4, whatever you want to call him. But there's someone there, but I think that he turns that player option down. I think Minnesota comes in and offers him a bigger contract, more money. He's just so crucial to what they do there. I don't think they want to lose him, right? Steven Adams in Houston. Now, I want Steven Adams on the squad next year. I do. Now, Steven Adams is older. Again, he's not that vertical lob threat, but I think the Lakers need to get 2 centers, and Steven Adams needs to be one of them. I think you bring him off the bench, which is the role he's playing there in Houston, playing behind Big Sengun, Baby Jokic. I would love to have Steven Adams on this team. And in fact, the Lakers at the trade deadline, they checked in. They called about Steven Adams after they acquired Luka. before they did the Mark Williams thing, they called Houston to inquire about Steven Adams. They wanted him. They were very interested in him. I think in the summer you need to go out there and you get him if Houston doesn't retain him. But again, I think he's someone you can get for that taxpayer MLE. A vet minimum, I don't know. Maybe he'll take a vet minimum to come and play with LeBron and play in LA. We'll see. But Steven Adams is a name that I want to go out there and get. Again, I think he's a solid backup. He's not your starter, but he's a backup. Al Horford, that's another one. I don't think he's going anywhere. If Boston wins the title, I think he just, rides off into the sunset, which, I hate to say it, but Boston is my pick to win the championship this year. Even had the Lakers, matched up against Boston in the playoffs, I don't think they had enough to beat Boston. You talk about a 5-out. That's a real 5-out. The Lakers run this 5-out, and they got only 5.5 guys who can shoot three and knock them down, right? That you actually play. Boston, they could go 8, 9, sometimes even 10 deep. You're not going to run a 5-out offense or 5-out system, which JJ wants to do with only 5 guys or 5.5 guys or 6 guys if you want to include Dalton Connect at the end of the bench, right? You're just not going to do that. So that's another thing. Like the Lakers have to figure out, that's what JJ wants to do. He wants to play that small ball. He wants to run a 5-out. Well, he was forced to play the small ball, but he wants to shoot threes. When he got the job and he came in, he said that's what he wanted to do. And that's what the Lakers did. Well, if that's what they're going to continue to do, and that's the team that they're going to be, you're going to have to get some more shooters in there, right? So this summer, you're going to have to find more shooters if that's what they want to be. And, of course, the Luka system, is going to be a lot of threes. When we acquire our threes just jumped up tremendously, right? So I think you got to build out that bench, with some more shooters, some guys who can shoot. Because you got a couple of Rui, he can catch and shoot, right? He can knock down a 3-ball. Even DFS, to an extent, he can knock down a 3-ball. He's that 3-and-D type guy. So you got those. But after that, the drop-off is very drastic. Again, your next best shooter is probably the 11th man on the bench and Dalton Connect, the rookie, which I don't think Dalton's going to be here. I think that the Lakers, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think that he's going to be included in whatever trade the Lakers do. So, yeah, me personally, I think we've seen the last of Dalton in the purple and gold. Andre Drummond, he has a player option. No thanks, unless it's a backup on a vet minimum. Kevin Looney, he's an unrestricted free agent. John Collins is a player option. Precious Achua, he's an unrestricted free agent. I wouldn't mind him. But I think that the Lakers are going to have to go get their big via trade. I think that's what they're going to have to do. Because the Lakers come in right now, the only thing they pretty much have is the taxpayer MLE. Now, LeBron, that's going to decide a lot. It's going to determine a lot what the Lakers can do. So LeBron has a $54 million player option. He can just decide to pick that up and play on that, or he can opt out and sign a bigger deal, a longer deal rather, or he can opt out and sign a deal for a lesser, right? Not as much. That 54 could go down to 34, right? And that'll give the Lakers a lot of leverage, right? Because that basically what that'll do, that frees up their full MLE, right? So you go from a taxpayer MLE, which is like $6 million, to a full MLE, which is what, 13 or 14 million. That's going to be the Lakers. That's the Lakers' biggest chip there. They don't have any salary cap space. They don't. So they just don't have that, right? But again, if LeBron gives some money back, then they could free up that full MLE. And you remember, he did it last year. He went to the Lakers and said, "Get me this player or this player or this player, and I'll give some money back. I'll help this team. I'll take a pay cut and help this squad." And I think the guys on that list were like James Harden, Klay Thompson, of course, which the Lakers tried to go in after Klay. Klay just wanted more money. He got that in Dallas. And a few other guys. And I think that's going to be the same thing this year. I think he'll give them his list and be like, these are the guys I'll take a pay cut for. And let's see if this time we can get something done, if we can get one of those guys landed, right? But again, if he gets back about 20 million, they could free up a full MLE. And then also another caveat, something that's new in the rule, but I forgot about this. But as I was looking over some stuff, I did notice this again, or I remembered it. a new rule that was put in place last summer is if you do have a full MLE, you don't necessarily have to sign someone to that. You can use it in a trade. You can put that MLE in a trade and acquire someone that way. So that's something that the Lakers may do, right? Including their full MLE as a trade exception, right? Which again, that's how I believe the Lakers are going to get their guy. I think that's how they're going to get their center. And out of all the people listed or people available, somewhat available, if you will, I think you hit up Brooklyn and you go get Claxton, right? I think that's what you do. Now, obviously, if I had my choice, my top guys are Miles Turner, but Miles Turner is just playing so well there. Indiana, they just advanced to the second round, which now they play Cleveland. If they upset Cleveland, then I just think you got to run that back. You got to bring that team back, right? If they're going to go back to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think you got to keep that team together. But Miles Turner, he definitely, I would love to have him, right? Again, he's not the greatest vertical lob threat that Luka is used to, but he can catch some lobs. He can stretch. He's more of a stretch, right? He's knocking down a 3-ball at a high clip this year. And then he can grab some rebounds. It's not the Miles of old. I think he kind of shifted his focus more so on the offensive end. But you remember back in the day, Miles was like a top defensive big, right? Blocking shots and grabbing boards. He can still do that. He can still do that. There's games he still grabs double-digit boards. And in fact, when he does, Indiana has a really, really good record. So again, I just don't know if he's going to be available. Now, again, he's an unrestricted free agent. So Indy has to pay a lot of those other guys. They have a deep squad over there. They got to pay a lot of guys. So maybe they don't have enough to pay Miles, right? And when you look around the league, there's not a lot of teams with cap space. I think Brooklyn is like the only team really that has, a significant amount of cap space available. So maybe you can work out a 3-team deal there, with Miles, coming to us, Claxton coming to us and Miles going to Brooklyn or vice versa. We're getting, there's something that could be there. The Lakers are going to have to get very creative in how they acquire, someone, because we know that that's this team's biggest need. It's an absolute must. You have to go out there and do it. But again, it may not just be in free agency. Again, they're going to have to get creative and try to, factor in a trade, if you will, possibly. Lakers need to build a bench and get a real center. Yeah. So we're talking about the center. I think the Lakers have 3 major needs. The big, right? A legit starting caliber big, right? A center. I think the other thing is a 3-and-D wing. They need more of that. That's just something we don't have. You got it in DFS. You got it in Rui to an extent. I think Rui played solid defense in this series, but he's not the greatest defensively, right? He can hold his own. He held his own, but you got to go after that. It's a drop off. Vando is not that. It's just defense with him, energy. Shout out to Vando, man. He played very well last night. He was on Ant a lot last night. I don't know what took so long to go to that. It only took game 5 elimination to put Vando on Ant. I just don't get it. We should have saw more of that. And I know, Minnesota, they made it difficult with the switch hunting and all that, trying to get Vando off of Ant, if you will. But the Lakers, that was something that they needed to hammer down more or pursue more, and they just didn't. Game 5, but last night he played well. But again, we're talking about 3-and-D. Vando is just not. He's not going to give you the offense. He's just not. He absolutely struggles offensively, finishing, catching, and all that. So yeah, they have to go out and get another 3-and-D guy. Of course, the more you can get, the merrier. The thing is, those guys are limited, and everybody wants one, right? Even teams that has some. They want another one. 3-and-D, you can never have too many 3-and-D guys. But so it's going to be tough to get that, but the Lakers got to find a way to get it. Again, if you got to get creative. However you're going to do, you got to do it. And the third thing that I think this team needs is a point of attack defender, right? So we talked about Max Christie earlier. Yeah, I would love to get him back. if there was a will and a way, right? I would love that. But again, a point of attack defender, right? Because Luka and AR, they're going to get torched. They're going to get torched. Luka, I think, is a good off-ball defender, or not good, a decent off-ball defender, but on ball, yeah, they're going to cook them. And you saw that time and time again in this series, particularly down the clutch, right? So you need someone out there who and you got Gabe Vincent there, but Gabe has to go. He's just not consistent, man. The Gabe that you saw in Miami that we thought we were signing up for, we didn't get anywhere near close to that. Of course, we missed the whole year of him. He was out that whole year with the injury. He ain't it. And he has an expiring contract. So I think you got to put that to use, right? You got to go out there. When I keep saying get creative, that's how you get creative. Use that $12 million there. That's a nice chunk of change to get someone back, or stack that with some other contracts to get an even bigger piece back, right? So again, those are the three things that I think the Lakers need to do. A starting big, right? A center, a 3-and-D guy, and a point of attack defender, right? A guard, or someone who can guard that perimeter, the point of attack defender, right? So yeah, those are the three things that I think that the Lakers need to do in this summer, right? And they know it. You heard Rob in his exit interview. He said that getting a big is the priority. That's the number one goal, number one priority, the primary goal this summer. And yeah. But he did promise this team is going to look a lot better. I think he used the analogy or whatever. What he said, when you acquire someone like Luka at the trade deadline, trying to build a roster around him, it's kind of like trying to build a plane while it's in the sky, or something to that effect that he said. So now, we're out of this thing. So now you can land the plane, park it in the hangar, and go to work building it, right? So, Rob, we need you to cook. We need you to cook. And that's the thing. When we acquired Luka, everybody expected the Lakers to kind of take a step back. They didn't think that this would be the Lakers' year, that they would take a step back just because there were so many flaws around, and you just didn't have time to address any of those things because it was in the middle of the season. Now, shout out to the Lakers. They kind of proved that wrong a bit, because they went on an amazing run. They had that 20-4 run, right? And of course, they had that span where they were a top defense, and they looked like a true contender, and they got all the way to the 3 seed, won 50 games. But there was just so many things, so many flaws, and so many holes in this roster. It wasn't going to be sustainable in the playoffs. Even if the Lakers were able to get out of this series, and into the round 2, can you beat Golden State in 4? I don't know. But if you're able to get out of that and you get to the conference finals, I just don't think that this team is going to beat OKC in 4. Now looking at it, right? Hindsight being 2020, looking at it now, I just don't think. Now, of course, a week ago, yeah, baby, we're still going all the way. We going to the finals. But, this team just had too many flaws and too many holes. And now that we're out of this thing, we're out of the playoffs, let's get the plan together and let's address those things, right? Because there's a lot. Again, but those three are the big ones for me that the Lakers have to correct. All right. We'll be here all summer long, man, all season long, I should say. We're not in the summer yet. It sucks. We won't be here breaking down games anymore. It sucks. We won't be here getting you ready for playoff games. It really, really does suck. We're at home, man, in the first round, back-to-back years at home. But nevertheless, we'll be here all season long breaking down stuff like this, and breaking down, potential guys that the Lakers can go out and get. We will be here. And before we get out of here, I just want to say what the Lakers have, to play with this summer. They have 1 first-round pick. They have some pick swaps. I think a couple pick swaps or whatever. They have expiring contracts. They have like $40 million in expiring contracts between Rui, Maxi Kleber, Gabe Vincent. You got, yeah, like $40 million, $41 million there in salary, that you could include in a trade. That's a lot of money there. A lot for, obviously they're expiring contracts. That's a lot. That's a lot. And then they also have Dalton Connect. I think he's an asset, right? Again, I don't think that come October 1st or when they report to camp and all that, I don't think Dalton will be a Laker. I think he'll be included in whatever deal. I just think a team's going to ask for him. And, if he's the difference, then yeah, you just got to include him in there. You already traded the man and he was brought back. Awkward situation, right? Awkward moment. So, yeah, that's pretty much what the Lakers have. And they have their taxpayer MLE. Now, again, LeBron gets back some money. We can free up that full MLE, which goes from $6 million as a taxpayer MLE up to 13 million, 12 or 13 million with the full MLE. So that's what the Lakers have to work with. They don't have any cap space. They're over the cap. I think they're like a few $1 million under that apron. So yeah, that's where we stand. And again, we'll break it all down as we move forward. Again, this is not what I want to be doing. I want to be talking about Game 6 tomorrow, man. But no, we're not, man. We are not. But nevertheless, enjoy the rest of basketball. There is some playoff basketball right now. I'm about to watch this Knicks Piston. They're going at it, right? And then you got Jokic versus Kawhi in the nightcap tonight. So, man, enjoy the rest of your postseason. Again, we'll be here. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific. And, man, we're going to bounce back. We're going to build this roster out correctly. And we're going to be right back in the mix of things next year. But no more first round eliminations, right? We're going to bounce back. But thanks for hanging with me, man. I'll be back with you guys next Tuesday. But again, someone will be here tomorrow and on Monday. So make sure you guys tap in. Cancun on 3. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. Because that's where Bron and Luka and AR are headed. All right, we'll tap in on the next one, man. Enjoy NBA playoffs tonight. Peace out. Again, I'm your host, LOE, which stands for Lakers Over Everything. That's where you can find me at on all platforms. So come follow me over there. And yeah, man, until next time, peace.